Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
Today we will be looking the whatever tabs we didn't cover, we will cover today. In the account section, all identities will be populated whatever we have created. This is called account. There is a difference between identity and accounts. Identity means you got employee details from the corporate source. You can say authoritative system or else trusted source. If you are going to get employee details from there, then it's going to consider as identity. If you're going to get employee details from application, those employee details is going to store in this identity section. There is a difference, just try to understand. Let's talk about password policy from first. Password policy. You have created an application, you got some identity and application team fields. We need to define some policy. Password policy means some minimum character has to be their maximum character number of password. Some uppercase has to be there, some lowercase has to be there. They are feeling security breach should not happen, and this is the password we are going to define. How you are going to achieve any idea? From back and how we can achieve. If it is a different IAM tool, then it's how I mean any idea. If you can, we can define here. It shows all these. I mean, probably it'll have the validation and everything, right? To recognize. Otherwise, usually in Active Directory it is done through the GPOs and everything. Just click on the Create New Policy from here. You can define your policies as per the client requirement. Maximum number of character, minimum number of character. You can mention the password policy, name and all. How many minimum number of digits, minimum uppercase, minimum lowercase. Minimum special character password history length. If you are going to define these things, password policy will be created. Just check from the back. I have created on password policy. From back and how it's going to look like. Password policy is an object I have created on password policy, rack of default password policy. These are the XML tags. No need to worry about these things. This XML tags. Anyway, I'm going to copy from the existing one. If you want to create any custom policy, what I'll do, I'm going to copy paste everything. Just click on here. Click new. From here, you can remove these things. If you want to create any object, the XML tag is going to be same for everything, every object. ML object. This is the default password policy we have created. If you want, you can create from here. If you want to create from back-end using Eclipse or Object Browser, you can achieve. I have given password. History should be 8. Password maximum length and minimum length. It's similar to all these things, only whatever I have mentioned here. Let me add. Something I have modified. Let's save and just have a look. Oh, it's not allowing us to save. It's giving some administrator permission error. I guess you save it and read the error properly. If you do, when it comes to SailPoint, it won't ask for any administrator error. I missed. There is some password error. Please check in. 2729 brother. I made some mistake. Leave it as of now. Some password policy we have created in the backend. If you want to use it for the existing one, in that scenario, you can click for this exists, add existing policy. And this password is for this application, right? Exactly, application. Whoever is going to use, who is going to log in, you can consider. This is the default policy I have created. A password must have at least 4 digits. In that, user cannot reuse any of your last 8 passwords. Must have at least 8 characters, something we have different in the back end. It's replicating here. But right now, we have just performed the aggregation, which is like updating the identities in a SailPoint. We have not yet done go ahead. We have not yet provisioned it to the end directory. I mean, what's the significance of this password policy at this moment? Let me explain Notion. I'll complete this after that. I'll explain. Whenever employee is going to log in the particular application, he has to follow this password policy. Then only it will allow him to create or reset his password. Here you can add the identity filter. This password is going to applicable for all identities, which mean all application accounts. Or is there any particular people? If you want to filter something or you want to create some group of people and you want to apply this password policy for those group of people, you can achieve from here. Let me clarify. You have SailPoint. You have target system. Yesterday we have created called drive. We have created an application and we have done the aggregation that we got all those identities into SailPoint. The same identity is going to access this drive using some link or anything, right? This is web-based application. Consider. We are going to mention the employee is going to mention the URL is going to click on enter. It will ask for my username password. Is that what you're asking? It raises again two more question because when we are doing the onboarding of the applications, there are already users in the application. They already have some passwords already set up, right? The moment I'm going to define this password policy, they have to reset. They have to follow. Let me clear that doubt as well. From here, if anyone is going to reset his password, any employee, let's take an example of James Smith. I'm going to click on change password. Here we have option require the user to change their password. The next time that they log in, which means they will get some temporary password or any password. I'm going to enable this. They have to reset their password once they log in. Which password? Because this is the identity cube. This is entire password. Entire means I can say if they got some birth rate access, in that scenario, it will be applicable for birth rate access. Are their system SailPoint? This is all about SailPoint. This password is applicable for SailPoint, not any application. Just for example, I said the same button. Sorry to interrupt, but I think the question was first you create the application and then you import the identities. Then you provision the access to the identity right. And then you go to the last step. In real-time project, this is not the case, right? For learning purpose, have explained everything that you can understand. But when it comes to real-time project, they are going to get that identity from corporate directory, some HR, correct? They will get those identities. What will happen? Whenever they are going to update in the spreadsheet. Today, consider one employee has been joined. They are going to update in the spreadsheet. Account aggregation will execute on a daily basis. Correct. No need to execute right. Each and every day, the aggregation will happen. Refresh identity will happen as part of those things. Identity will be created inside a SailPoint. After that, we have an attribute. Based on the attribute, event will trigger. This LCM events will trigger. Using this event, we can provide some birthright access to the user, which is maybe can we go back to the same identity where we were showing the past policy? I think your doubt is, what about the existing user? If we are going to implement you, what's going to? Correct. If we are setting up a connector and at the same time, what's the first of all, what's the best practice? Because when we are onboarding application, we don't want to create any disaster for the production environment, right? As soon as you are not going to create directly into production. First, you will create in dev environment. One by one, you will go right, low environment. No need to worry. What my question is, because this is an attribute. This tab is an attribute for this application, Google Drive, right? I'm assuming, as you already told, this password policy would be applied to the Google Drive application, right? Because very first step for any SailPoint implementation is that the aggregation means taking the identities into SailPoint. At that time, if you are putting the password policy in, is it a right statement that, for example, if we are taking the identities, are we really taking the password as well for this application? I don't think the passwords get synchronized. I don't think. You are talking about synchronized, right? I mean, at the time of aggregation, I have the password policy in the project. Let's take this way. For example, if Active Directory, I'm connecting with Active Directory. I'm doing the aggregation. There are 5,000 people there. And we have set of some kind of a password policy, some 4 digits and all that stuff. Just for the moment, assume that whatever the password policy they already had there in their AT is not compliant. For example, what we have defined here. When we do the aggregation, what's going to happen? Just to clarify, we are going to migrate. It's kind of migrate, right? We are going to maintain this application inside SailPoint, not into any other source. We won't get from two places, right? No, we will take the app, we'll take the users, we'll do the aggregation. What's going to happen? My next question is, for example, if there is the identity, what's going to happen? After aggregation, nothing is going to happen from either for identities. Whoever has access to this application, nothing is going to happen. The moment you are going to define any password policy, after that, all whoever has access to this application, they have to reset their password on that next logon. Does that make sense? On the next logon in the password policy, tomorrow they are going to log in. They won't be able to log in. They have to follow. They have to reset their password. At the moment, we are going to define any password policy. We are going to notify to this application owner or all the accounts, whichever is possible, saying we have created a different password policy. This many characters, I mean this policy we will define. This is, you have to follow something like, can you click on existing password policy once? We have defined this rack of password policy. We have application called Drive. Let's take an example. This is Google Drive. Here, consider login will be there. You have to enter username, password. And if the password doesn't work, what will you do usually? You will reset your password, right? From the reset page, the user has to follow. When he is going to reset his password, he has to follow that password policy, or else it won't allow him to reset the password. There is a login. You have to enter the username password. When he is trying to access, he won't be able to log in using the SailPoint credential from there or whatever. He has to use the previous password. Because yesterday we have defined the password policy, he won't be able to log in. In that scenario, he has to reset his password. Does that make sense now? Alright? For the first time when we do the aggregation, probably we don't set the any password policy because it's going to create problems as soon as we set it up. Because of that, the application team will be very clear what they are going to do. It should not affect the user. It should not affect the production. They will be more clear. They will define each and everything. After that, they are going to run the aggregation. I hope you understand. If you are not clear, then ask me. I'll explain. I'll try to explain. No issue. No, I'll do this in production. Actually, I have. No, I'll do this in production directly. Just try to implement in lower environment first. If that works, oh, I mean in my labs. I'll try this thing in my labs. Definitely. You should try. Let me bring you this password policy as well that you can follow. Let's see. I'm going to bring you. If you have, you can create Notion and Bobber. What was your question? That was exactly what I wanted to ask that. If you set a password initially on the target application and really time is being integrated on SailPoint, is there going to be a conflict? But not right now. You said that? As long we're going to be creating on SailPoint and the password has been set on the application itself, doesn't really matter. There will be two scenarios. One, you have defined the policy after that. You are going to aggregate all accounts in that scenario. It's not going to be any problem, right? First, you have been the aggregation. After 6 months there, you are going to implement any defect, define your password policy. Then it's going to be issued because each and every user has to reset their own password. The first one, you have to be able to get the information from the next day. You have to be able to get the information from the next day. Now I can think we got clear. And can we go ahead for the next one? Next step. I'm good. The same way, let's go to creation rule. If you couldn't achieve anything via this tab, let's take an example correlation. If you couldn't achieve correlation using this attribute, then you can define any customization rule. You can create some rule and you can assign here. You couldn't achieve correlation, as I said here. In that scenario, you can create some correlation rule from here. You can assign. This is what it means. This page is applicable for all customization rule. You want a provision and you don't want to follow that out of the box feature. Has anyone any idea what is out of the box? Because I'm going to use the footer number of times out of the box custom. Any idea what is out of the box? Whatever comes default. It's all up. But initially I was not aware. Out of the box means I used to think anything we are going to customize not out of the box. The answer lays on the same right. The meaning. Out of the box means here nothing. Whatever comes with default feature. Standard one. You can consider. If you don't want to follow out of the box provisioning policy, provisioning in that scenario, if you want to create any rule, you want to make any customization as per client requirement, then you can use this provisioning rules from here. You can assign the rules. The same thing, we have connected rules also, but specifically build map rule pre-iterator, post-iterator. If you want to create anything, if you don't want to follow any out of the box feature, then if and your situation into you want to create any customization, then you can create a number of rules and you can submit from here. Activity data source. I never use these things in the real-time project. It's nothing. If you want to monitor something, if you want to do micromanagement kind of thing, we have to enable activity, new data source from based on the logs. You can monitor each and everything like employee login details, employee logger details, at what time he has logged in. Is he working around after 8 hours working hours, or what about the non-working hours? Easy log employees log in or not. Those kinds of details you can check based on the logs. If you have enabled this active data source configurations. We have a separate topic called risk identity risk application risk. We will learn later. What is risk based on some? I mean, we are going to mention some risk, point to the entitlement roles, some access. Based on that, these things will be generated. If the risk score is 500 and the threshold is 400, consider. In that scenario, we need to validate this user very immediately. This is what it means. Let me show you. Here, as of no identity risk, Sondrit, no need to worry about these things. For this user, he has some 404 risk score. Then on the threshold level is 400. Then we have to immediately validate his user access. What kind of access he has? Because whatever, we are going to provide some points. Those access is going to call as privileged access. No need to worry about these things. We have a topic, separate topic. We will learn later. Accounts, I have explained. From here you can check the status when the account has been last time refreshed. These kind of things you can check. Correlation. We will talk about correlation. We are talking about application onboarding. Let's have a question. Nazim is an employee. We got his identity from some HR application into SailPoint. This Nazim identity has been created from HR application into SailPoint. I'm able to find his identity. Nazim is our present. Now the same employee has access to some 5 different applications. Already he has access. And this we got a requirement as a SailPoint developer, admin. We got a requirement to onboard these 5 different applications. In that scenario, what will happen? You got the requirement. 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 We have an application from there. As part of aggregation that a Vina identity has been created in SailPoint. He got the same client. He got some birthright access, whatever. Apart from this one, HR access. He has some different 5 applications. Let's take an example Gmail, Google Drive, or any other application he has access. Now, as a SailPoint admin, I got a requirement. These 5 applications also have to onboard. In that scenario, I'm going to create 5 applications for those 5 applications. I'm going to create task account aggregation task. Those account aggregation will happen in that time. What will happen? Already we have identity. Is it going to create 5 more identity? Ideally, yes, unless we are going to create some kind of a link with the central identity with all the 5 applications. We will create one identity, but you will link the identity with 5 different applications. That's what we are going to do. Apart from that, any other idea? I'm Pine and Navi, any other idea? That's what I mean, because we have to have some kind of a link with the anchor attribute, right? There will be some primary attribute. We are going to define this correlation. We understand the requirement, right? Why we are going to implement, why we're going to create correlation. Because we won't able to have some 6 identities with the same name. That's not possible. I mean, that's not recommendable. In that scenario, we can do one thing. We will correlate all identities based on some attribute. Let's take an example. 5 application I have created. I don't want to create 5 more times the same identity. Just click on, I'm going to create some new rule, correlation rule. The role name could be anything. Randomly, I'm choosing Nazim rule. Just click on next. From this page, you are going to define, this is the application attribute. This is the identity attribute. You have any confusion? What is the difference between application attribute and identity attribute? No, identity is the central one. SailPoint and the application is the application one. No, theoretically, I'm not asking. Just you have an idea, right? What is application attribute? From where we can fetch. And what about identity attribute? What about other guys? Are you clear? Or can I explain one more time? Because if you didn't understand these things, it will be difficult to understand. That's the reason I'm saying. What about Bob and Naveen? I think application attributes has to do with the characteristics of the application that has been assigned to. Let me open one identity and I'll explain. This username, first name, last name, email manager type. This department region, these are the customized one. Don't go there. These are the attributes. These are the identity attributes. If I'm going to open any spreadsheet feed file from there, some employee ID, first name, last name will be there, right? Those details called application attribute. Now I need to define in between these things. In the application attribute, both attributes has to be unique. Let's take an example email. If both the email is going to match, in that scenario, 5 identities won't be created. It's going to merge. Does that make sense? Let's check here. And apart from that, one thing I have noticed, if you're not going to define any correlation, also SailPoint has a mechanism. It won't allow you to create multiple times. Let's go to identity. Let me select any one user. Whenever employee is going to get 5 more accounts, we have onboarded these 5 applications. In that scenario, it's going to look like this. We have onboarded 5 applications. We have created 5 tasks. We have aggregated those things. Identity won't create 5 times. It will merge with all these 5 accounts. Any doubts, guys? Actually, how would SailPoint? If you have not defined any correlation rule, how will SailPoint get to know? I don't know. I don't know. There is a mechanism. As a day before I study, only I came to know. I thought we have to define the correlation rule, but we won't be able to rely on the mechanism. Just try to remember. For I never relied on the backend mechanism. You have to define the rules because you are going to maintain 1.5 lakh identities when it comes to real-time project. This is what I have seen far. You should declare the correlation. You should define. Does that make sense? Because day before yesterday, I was working on randomly and I came to know if you are not going to define any correlation in that scenario, also it won't create. If you want, you can try in your system. Just try to replicate first. Don't define any correlation rule. Try to create 5 applications. Try to import all identities. What will happen? I'll ask tomorrow and I'll explain more. Does that make sense? Is it clear? 5 application you have created. All 5 application is going to merge in the same identity because of the correlation. Because if you are going to do, you are definitely going to end up with any error. And you will learn something. You'll learn new as a start. Let me open this application. These are the tabs. These are the tabs. Correlation accounts, risk activity, data source rules, password policy is going to be same for all application. All application based on the connector. All application based on the connector. This configuration tab is going to change for every connector type. As I said, let's create one more application. In this time, all data has been stored in database. Now I'm going to change the type as JDBC instead of delimiter if the data has been stored in the feed file. I can select a limiter type. I can select delimiter type. If the data has been stored in delimiter, database, I have to select JDBC. Now suppose one identity on 5 different applications. I may be wrong here, but I'm just trying to understand what if the database type is or the file type is incorrect. Like if it is CSV or .xl or yesterday, you have seen right. If the file type is not CSV or if the data is not correct, it will throw some error. SailPoint retrieving was successful. You have seen the message right yesterday when we click on the test connector. Correct. But it won't read the file. The aggregation won't happen. It will throw some error. No, I think I did not put my question correctly. What I mean is there are 5 applications. Now there is only one identity. It may be that those out of 5 application to application may accept different kind of a delimiter. What in those kind of scenarios? Different kind of delimiter means I didn't get that. Like suppose different file type. I mean to say one application is delimited. One application is JDBC1 application. Correct, correct, correct. Based on that connector, you have created an application, right? For that particular application, you have created some tasks. Why are you checking those files? I didn't get that. Let's take an example here. The same identity. This identity has 5 applications. It's not necessary. All of one has to be delimited. This drive. Spreadsheet delimited. You can consider this Google Gmail. This application is a database application. We have used the connected JDBC in the backend. You should not worry about the what is application and all aggregation happening. Identity got this access. No need to worry about connector type. Because in the initial time, whenever you are going to create an application where the data has been stored, based on that you are going to select the connector. And based on that, you are going to create from where the data has been fixed. It's connected thing. We should not worry. I think you understand that the question is different. No, I understand. I understood. I'm actually confused with the file type CSV, the Excel sheet that is you showed yesterday. The first simple. Whenever employee is going to join, what HR people will do? They are going to collect the details, right? Correct. They will collect the details and they are going to enter in somewhere. It could be Excel sheet. It could be some web-based portal, right? It could be some application. Finally, the data where they are storing, that matters. If they are going to store into Excel sheet, I know actual sheet, it's going to be CSV format. It has to be CSV format. And we can import those data using delimited connector. If the data has been stored in some JDDBC, some database, some backend, the database is working. Let me open here. Some database. If the data has been stored here in the database, in this identity I could database. In that scenario, I'm going to use some JDBC connector. Using the JDBC connector, I can fix the data. I can import all the data. Now, yes. Let's do one thing. It's not only for now. In all of you understand Boba denial, and I'm a Subramanian. Rosh, I understand. That part I understand. But the correlation again, the 5 application, we gave the example. I do understand. I'll give it a try and pow, but I want you to know. Just give it a try. You'll understand. But for the correlation, there was another concept I remember from the feed file, be it HR, be it anything, right? We get managers right. We have to have the managers correlated as well, right? How did the other section? It doesn't matter if you want to correlate anything. Based on the attribute, only you're going to define. If you want to, you can select the manager ID from here in the identity attribute. Manager attribute has to be there. You can. Can we have two kinds of correlation by I'm saying I had a real client requirement on a different, it was for a meme though. We did it in a different way. Let's take an example. As you said, manager and supervisor, right? From application attribute, from based on the application, I can select. If I couldn't achieve using this attribute, in that scenario, we need to define the correlation rule. Here I have to create some rule. Let's take an example. Prism correlation. Some rule has been written already. We have to define these things. If you couldn't achieve using the attribute, identity attribute, application attribute, you couldn't create correlation. Then you have to create a rule. We can create one because by default they have given one for the manager. In case if somebody has manager as well as supervisor, there are two people to correlate. Manager, we can do it from there, which is already given manager correlation, right? We can have all the managers correlated. Then you have to define this is the employee. You have to use some if condition. If the employee type is a contractor, then you should look for this correlation. If the employee type is permanent, then you should go for this correlation. Something like correlation rule. Correlation rule. We can write it here. You're saying exactly. Whatever rules you are going to define here as part of account aggregation, it will trigger as part of provision. It will trigger. Just keep in mind that whenever we run the aggregation, these correlation rules will also trigger. Know whenever the, right? I think for the first time it will execute. If the employee is going to join, if the employee is going to create first time, then these things will definitely pitch in, not for the existing identities. By any chance, when you're explaining, I understand you explaining each and everything, but by any chance, are we going to play around with these? Are we going to have settings done in R or maybe as a part of this exercise to do this for one identity or something like that? Usually I'll provide to the candidates only and I'll ask them tomorrow whether have you done or not. Because the other rule section was very intensive and elaborated. I don't know what all things we can do here. Again, saying creating rules, becoming a developer, it's quite tricky. It's like a mathematics. If you are going to try each and every day, then you can learn, you can understand. I can explain 1 or 2 days, but after that, it's your right. You have to learn. But as a default thing, what all do we really use provisioning rules? Do we really use provisioning rules here or we don't use it? Provisioning rules here, it depends upon the client requirement. Usually, if the client is saying to define something, definitely I'll tell them whether it's possible or not. If it is possible, then this is the time consuming and all, each and every. It's possible. We can do that. If I'm understanding correctly, any kind of custom provisioning rules will have to come here. Otherwise, the default provisioning rules, there would be a separate place to do it. I mean, if we have to really provision to some other directory from the back end, we have an ATM provisioning. Is my screen visible? This is the default provisioning workflow. It will get triggered and you can provide access. It has some as well, which we'll discuss as a part of this course. As part of this business process workflows, we will learn. You should know, you will know how it's going to be working on. We have started from the scratch right? Installation. How to create an application, how to aggregate or import those identities, how we are going to provide, how we are going to manage. After that, we will start with access level. What kind of access we can provide, how we can provide, create those access, how we are going to manage. After that, one by one, how to define the policies, how we are going to do a certification, how we are going to do the provisioning. Everything we will learn. One identity and 5 different applications. Then we will be discussing also how we will be provisioning one identity on 5 different applications separately also. One of identity 5 applications. 5 applications. 5 applications, one identity, probably mirroring. In general way, mirroring of access is done. But if you know 2 application, just a minute. Let me explain this one. I have an identity. That identity is looking for some drive access or some other application access. In that scenario, as a manager or as an user, I have to submit access request first. To submit access request, I'll come to this page. I'll select this user. Whoever is this, whoever need access. After that, based on the second page, manage access, I'm going to select some rules, some entitlement which belongs to some particular application. Right. If I'm going to select, if I'm going to provide means the user will get these access, the particular application access. No need to worry, all access. We are going to get it from aggregation only. We can submit access request using that. Also, user will have access. Does that make sense? We will learn one by one. No. For it's clear, right? Application creation and all. Based on where the data has been stored, we are going to select the delimiter white. Let's create one more application. Now in this scenario, all the data has been stored in the database. I have selected JDBC connector, the correlation rule, the risk activity, data source rules and password policy. It's going to same for all type of connectors. As I said, the configuration is going to change when it comes to configuration. It look like different, right? Now I have to change everything. What is the connection database? URL database driver, each and everything I have to mention. These details, I'm going to get it from the application team. No need to worry about these things. Yesterday, I also had a working session with application team to get the requirement. Let me update these details. Now client application team is saying connection user is going to be IdentityIQ is the username, the password. This is going to be the password. This is the password. Let me update here. Any idea, is this encrypted on or a decrypted one? The encrypted. Encrypted one. Decrypted. How would the encrypted we use? Encrypted. I don't think it's enabled right now. These are the questions we'll raise, right? If you're getting to the real one. That's the reason I'm saying just try to work around guys in your system. You will end up with a number of questions. Any of the decrypted one, not them. No, it's an encrypted one. I have some password like admin123. I don't want to share with the team directly. I have encrypted this one. Whatever it could be, don't worry about encrypted, decrypted. We can use the same password. That's what I'm trying to say. Just try to work around. We have, if you want to encrypt, decrypt, we can create a rule here. Just using only one method, I have created this one. This is the encrypted password. If I'm going to decrypt this one, what will happen? Just have a check. If I'm going to decrypt, the password is admin123, something like it will come. Let me enter the credential for this application. Now I'm going to update the database. URL. This is the dummy one. Now I'm going to clicking on the test connection. It will throw some error. Identity account doesn't exist. Let me mention this SQL statement as well. From which table I'm going to get the identities. Now that this connection is successful for JDBC application, I'm going to get these details from the client application team. They will be getting a touch with database team from anyone. We are going to get these details. No need to worry about these things. From which table I'm going to fetch the data. I've mentioned and have click on the test connection and the test connection is successful. This is how you're going to create an application. Let's try this in lab session, Rakesh. I will. Will I be able to do the test connection? If I want to try in my laptop, like as a part of lab, it's not possible. You should have some details, right? Correct? It's not possible from your end. If you want, then you have to create one database, one data. From there, you have to fix the data. We have databases correct in MySQL. It's related to SailPoint, right? You can, if you want, you can use the same database also. If we can create a user or a table, then you can use the same, but it will create mess. Do one thing, or else try to create one database, try to create some tables. From there, you can fix the data right. Next, we have seen the limited JDBC. Now you are going to onboard Active Directories. Since when you have worked on Active Directory right already, you have experience. Now I'm going to onboard Active Directory applications. I have selected the connector type as Active Directory. Notice the correlation risk. These are the things is going to same. Just go to configuration here. You have to mention it. Use services forest configuration, domain configuration. Any idea what is forest configuration, domain configuration? I have worked on Active Directory. I'm able to remember forest configuration. We have to define these things. If I'm going to install Microsoft Active Directory, I'm going to mention the forest name first. After that, domain name I'm going to mention. These are the things you are going to get it from the client. We have to mention what is forest name, what is the user password. This is going to be some service account. You have to mention if you want to create these applications. Exchange configuration. These are the details. Whatever in the red color star mark, it's mandatory. You have to provide to create an application. I have created one dummy application. Let me open that AT. In the configuration tab randomly have given some time. I'm going to use my test. You have to mention the domain name, forest name. Is it clear, guys? This is how you are going to mention. If it is a web-based application, then since if it is a web-based application, then you are going to use some different connector like web services or anything. In that scenario, configuration page will change something like this. You have to provide the basic URL authentication method, token URL, client ID, client secret. These are the things you are going to provide. I have explained everything. And this is how we are going to create application. How means how. This is how we are going to onboard an application as part of aggregation task aggregation. Identities will be imported. Since you got a requirement, your manager says we have a requirement to onboard an applications. Since you are new, you are not sure how, what kind of questions you are going to ask with the application team, because each and every details you are going to get in touch with. You are going to get it from application team on the client, your client, what kind of questions you can ask, any idea. Depending on the good. For me, I think basically it's going to be all the attributes that the application has that's being required by its, and I'm just going to the same way. We have to ask a number of questions because we are going to maintain identities and manage their accesses. In that scenario, usually I'll ask how many type of users we have in this application, like how many contractors. What kind of users like contractors? Temporary employee, permanent employee. These kind of questions are last usually. If they have separate contractor, separate full-time employee, they are using separate feed file. I'll be make sure if we have to create two feed files. I'll ask these kind of questions. I'll ask who is going to be the application owner. Because if you're in the process of the onboarding, if I have any questions, I have to reach the application owner. I'm going to ask who is going to be the application owner, who is going to be provided services for this application. If before the SailPoint it used to be some IT technical team, right? When it comes to password reset or anything, you have to get in touch with them to do that. Who is going to be the IT provider, usually last, apart from what is the source data, because based on the data source, one source data, I'm going to decide what kind of connector I'm going to use. I'll make sure where the data has been stored. I'll ask them these kind of questions in simpler where the application has been stored, whether it's L, D, A, P or any database or any Active Directory or any feed file spreadsheet. I'll ask, are any web-based application? Are any cloud something like? Apart from that, I'll ask, how many user upon? The application contains like 50,000, 60,000 or 1 lakh or some 5,000. How many identities are present exist in the application? I'll ask these kind of questions. What kind of password policy I'm going to define? What kind of provisioning we are going to define? Is it out of the box? One off of the box means default that L, C, M provisioning workflow. How do you want us to customize anything? Most probably 80% application team won't prefer for the customization. They will use for LCMM provisioning only. These kind of questions are last and certification related also last. Let's learn about certification. After that we will talk. These are the small things I'll ask the application team. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.